Alright, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, yesterday, Jesse on Fire uploaded a video regarding Aljamain Sterling, claiming that he is race baiting and using his race card. If you are a Jesse on Fire viewer, just know I am by no means a progressive. In fact, I am very far from it. I have a ton of videos where I have called out individuals who race bait, who claim that fighters don't get enough attention or respect due to race, due to phobias, all of those things. I can't stand it. And in my opinion, that's exactly what Jesse on Fire did yesterday. In my opinion, Jesse on Fire race baited, just not in the typical sense that we are used to seeing, right? Typically, we see somebody claiming a press status or one of these stupid things based on the color of their skin, based on their religion, based on the fact that they're gay or what have you. Instead, Jesse on Fire did that on behalf of somebody else. He claimed that Aljamain Sterling was claiming he was oppressed. He claimed that Aljamain Sterling claimed that he was, being oppressed due to the color of his skin, which there have been statements Aljamain Sterling has made previously that are blatantly to do with race. What he covered yesterday was not one of them. And something that I like to do is call out race baiting. And in the interest of being unbiased, I'm going to do it here. Because what Aljamain Sterling said yesterday had literally nothing to do with race. And Jesse on Fire made it completely about race, which is wild because that is something that he critiques and criticizes quite frequently. Like, either Jesse on Fire has been turned into a mind reader due to all of the Adderall and Kratom that he ingests, or he's accusing Aljamain Sterling of dog whistling, which is strange because accusing somebody of dog whistling is a very progressive tactic, okay? Again, he is pretty openly critical of progressives, so it's very strange to hear this coming from him. I want to talk about Dana White privilege a little bit, which is essentially just preferential treatment from the UFC. Now, he named 3 individuals who commonly get expressed as having Dana White privilege. And he said, it's weird that they're all white, you don't ever hear about Israel Adesanya or Kamaru Usman or any of these guys, getting called out for having Dana White privilege. Why do you think that is? What do all 3 of these guys have in common? Is it because they're white, maybe? Which is an absolute, 4th grader's understanding of why the 3 names that he mentioned, and I know that he's smarter than this, dude, or maybe he's not, I don't know, dude. And again, I'm not trying to, not again, I haven't said this yet, I'm not trying to insult Jesse on Fire. I want to attack the point that he made. If I throw in a joke here and there, if I, a little jab or whatever, I'm not being hateful, dude. I watch the guy's content not super regularly, but pretty regularly. I agree with him on a lot of stuff, pardon me. I disagree with him on some stuff. It is what it is. I'm not trying to insult him. I'm attacking his point, which I think is retarded, okay? Dana White privilege ain't got nothing to do with fucking race. Just because the 3 guys who get touted out the most as having it are white doesn't mean it's because they are white. And I would imagine I'm going to piss off one of 2 people in this video, or both. It's the people that actually think preferential treatment is given to fighters because they are white, or people that think when people say that they're talking about that. You know what I mean? Which it's neither, okay? Dana White privilege should get an Urban Dictionary translation to say green privilege, because the only time fighters get preferential treatment from the UFC, from Dana White, is when they bring in a fuck ton of money, okay? The 3 names that he mentioned, and I thought of one more that I will talk about at the end of this video because I want to stick to what he said and attack his points, and then I will give you another example. He said Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, and Sean O'Malley, which is the most relevant one because we're, in a Sean O'Malley fight week. I want to go over these guys and talk about how somebody could come to the conclusion that they were in fact given preferential treatment when it comes to the UFC and Dana White, okay? Michael Chandler, and I know he's boys with Michael Chandler, he's friends with Michael Chandler, he texts him all the time, so he's going to defend him no matter what. He's like the only guy that can get him to say something negative about Conor, despite all of the negative things you could come up with regarding Conor McGregor. Michael Chandler, absolutely, in my opinion, received some level of preferential treatment from the UFC. Now, I want to preface also, Not a single fighter on this list, or any fighter for that matter, that has ever received preferential treatment from Dana White or from the UFC should be blamed for it. As a professional fighter, your goal is to make as much money as possible, to win championships and things like this. If you are a professional fighter and the promotion is going to give you an opportunity, whether or not you feel you deserve it, and you don't take it, you're a fucking dummy. You know what I mean? Michael Chandler came into the UFC, and his debut fight was against Dan Hooker, who at the time was not even in the top 5. He was ranked number 6. Who was also coming off of a brutal war with Dustin Poirier in one that he lost, okay? Now, Dana White privilege will only take you so far. It'll get you the opportunity, but the thing is that you have to make good on that opportunity. Otherwise, it doesn't fucking matter. Do you know what I mean? Michael Chandler goes out there and has a very impressive debut. Finishes Dan Hooker in the first round very quickly. Backflip off the cage. All that good shit. So he made good on the opportunity. He was given the opportunity. He made good on it. Okay? Beating a number 6 ranked guy who's coming off of a loss typically is not good enough to get you a title shot. But it did get him a title shot. And this is the first instance we ever hear of the term Dana White privilege, and it came out of the mouth of Tony Ferguson, who did not make it about race until the next time he was fighting, and he was all fucking angry at John Morgan for asking him about it, because Tony Ferguson is insane. Michael Chandler got an undisputed title shot against Charles Oliveira, who was on a double-digit win streak, after beating the number 6 ranked guy who was coming off of a loss, right? This is what people are talking about. Michael Chandler, by all accounts, did not deserve a title shot, but he got one, right? He couldn't make do on the opportunity, but he still got one, okay? And then even further down the line, we've got a Michael Chandler today who has a losing record in the UFC. The only 2 guys he's been able to beat is Dan Hooker and a guy who kind of resembles El Cucuy but isn't truly El Cucuy, okay? And off of that losing record, he is getting the biggest monetarily significant fight of his fucking life in Conor McGregor, okay? This is what people are talking about. Now, Michael Chandler, why would he be given any preferential treatment from the UFC that doesn't have to do with him being white? First of all, he's somewhat marketable. Okay, he's good on the microphone, and not just good on the microphone, he's not fan-friendly, family-friendly. He doesn't swear, right? He came pre-packaged with a built-in fan base because he had a long fighting career in a different organization prior to coming to the UFC. Now, whether or not he's actually a pay-per-view draw, we don't really know. He's never main evented in a pay-per-view, and I kind of don't think that he is one. But at least there's the potential for that, right? A family-friendly guy, good on the microphone, crazy explosive performances, hasn't had a boring fight since he's been here. There's the potential to make a bunch of money on this guy. When Dana White looks at Michael Chandler, he doesn't see some slave master who's, hoarding black kids at his house. He sees a fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. He sees him green. And to be honest, he's kind of shaped like one. You know what I mean? And if not that he can make money on a Michael Chandler fight because he wants Michael Chandler to win, but at least, and we've seen him do this in the past with Ben Askren, he throws guys from other organizations to the fucking wolves, especially well-established guys, because then it shows people, yeah, he's good and he was a champion over there, but guess what? Charles Oliveira just fucking flatlined him in the second round. Do you know what I mean? So the potential to make a bunch of money was there with Michael Chandler. That's why he gets preferential treatment from Dana White, not because he's fucking white, or that's why people would perceive that he gets preferential treatment from Dana White. And all of those points I just made are valid, okay? Moving on. Conor McGregor. Now, he might be one of the worst examples in my opinion, but that's still to be determined, okay? And I'll tell you why. Now, he got somewhat favorable matchups early on in his career, but not entirely, right? Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier are not the guys that they are today, but they are still Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway. Like, they're no slouches. Now, Max Holloway was very, very young, and I think he had only had one fight in the UFC at that point, but so did Conor McGregor. So, but, the likes of Brimage, the likes of Brandao, The fact that he was given a title shot after beating Dennis Seaver was a little weird. Now, again, Dana White privilege will only take you so far. So when he now has to fight Chad Mendes for the interim title, like, that's, you can't fake it till you can fake it till you make it until that point. If he didn't beat Chad Mendes, we're not having this conversation, right? If he didn't go out there and starch Jose Aldo in 13 fucking seconds, we're not having this conversation. If he didn't go up and have one of the best performances of not just his life, but in the UFC in general, against Eddie Alvarez to claim double champ status, we're not having this conversation. Were the opportunities given to him? Yeah. Did he make good on them? Fuck yeah, dude. Now, later on, we might see, like, put it this way, if Conor McGregor has a fight scheduled before February, then that's another instance of that, right? Because he would be receiving a USADA exemption or some special treatment regarding that would allow him to fight before the 6-month testing period is up, and that's a little bit of foreshadowing into one of the later fighters that get Dana White privilege. So Dana White, when he looks at Conor McGregor, he doesn't love him because he's a pasty white Irishman. He loves him because he's a literal fucking leprechaun, and not because he's a pasty white Irishman with orange hair. And I'm not even saying this to be degrading to Conor McGregor, but because he literally comes with a pot of fucking gold. He has made the UFC more money than any fighter in existence ever. Point blank period. He has the highest selling pay-per-view of all time. He also has like fucking 3 or 4 of the top 5. Do you know what I mean? Like, when Dana White looks at Conor McGregor, he doesn't say, ah, yes, an Aryan brother. He sees a pot of fucking gold. Literally. Okay? Moving on. The next one he mentioned, Sean O'Malley, and the most relevant to this whole situation. Aljamain Sterling has been saying nonstop that Sean O'Malley has a huge name, and that this is a really good opportunity for him to go out there and, you know, put on a hell of a performance against a bunch of fans that Sean O'Malley brings with him, and, you know, the eyeballs that he also brings with him, okay? Sean O'Malley might be the actual best example of Dana White privilege, and it is what it is, dude. I'm not hating on the guy. Since coming back from his foot injury, dude's fought Jose Quinones, or whatever the fuck, Eddie Wineland, Marlon Chito Vera, okay, Thomas Almeida, Chris Moutinho, and Raulian Paiva, Pedro Munoz, and Piotr Jan. Now, there are some good names in there. However, okay, Quinones, or whatever the fuck, has a pro record of 10-6. He hasn't been in the UFC for 3 years. So, it's nothing special. Do you know what I mean? Eddie Wineland, 24-16-1, and is currently on a 3-fight skid, all of which are by finish. He's at the end of his career. He's 39 years old now. He was about 37 when he fought Sean O'Malley. Marlon Chito Vera, the first decent test that he has, he loses. Okay? And then he gets to go back and fight a few bums. We get Thomas Almeida, since Cody Garbrandt knocked him out, which took away his undefeated record. He has gone 1-4 and is currently on a 3-fight skid, or was when he fought Sean O'Malley. So, do you know what I mean, dude? Moving on. Chris Moutinho. Literally, they brought him in for that fight. He was not even in the UFC before that fight. They brought him in to be a fucking punching bag. He had one more fight after Sean O'Malley, which he lost. And by the way, he was finished in the first round, not in the third round, because Herb Dean had just seen enough, because he was actually knocked out. He's not been in the UFC since. Like, these aren't impressive victories. And the one impressive name up till this point he lost to. Moving on. Paiva was a former flyweight. He's very small compared to Sean O'Malley. This is actually not that bad of a win. It's actually hard to kind of say bad things about Paiva. He had just beaten Sean O'Malley's teammate at the time in... I'm drawing a fucking blank, but whatever, dude. Either way. He's not shit. The only knock I have on him is he doesn't really have any finishing ability. And even at flyweight, he didn't. So I don't know why we would expect him to have it at bantamweight. But it's still not like a ranked opponent. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe if he was ranked, it was at 15. Like, I can't even remember. But either way, moving on. Pedro Munoz. This is another good test, right? Since Cheeto. The first good test since Cheeto, after fighting 3 bums in a row after that. Ends in a no contest. Now, whether or not you think that it was the eye poke or the punch that fucked up Pedro Munoz's eye, he absolutely eye poked him. It's just a question of whether or not which eye it was that actually got fucked up, and if it actually got fucked up from the eye poke or if it actually was the punch. Either way, he didn't win. Now, he did look very good in the first round. He was checking a lot of leg kicks, you know what I mean? He was landing some good shots. Close first round. And Pedro Munoz is a savage, so I'm not going to really take that away from him, but he didn't win. And then he gets the opportunity off of a no contest victory, or a no contest, not a victory, my bad. He gets the opportunity to fight Petr Yan, which he jumped from, I think he was ranked number 13 at the time, to fight number 1. Big opportunity. Big opportunity. And whether or not you think he lost that fight, or should have lost that fight, or won it, or whatever you think about the decision, he made good on the opportunity, okay? That was a very, very, very competitive fight. That was a phenomenal fight. And up until that point, nobody had damaged Petr Yan the same way that Sean O'Malley did. You know what I mean? Not even Aljamain Sterling. Sean O'Malley split him open with a knee. Dude was leaking all over the place. Wobbled him to the point where he actually had to catch himself with his hand. Almost a knockdown. So, whether or not you think that victory was a true victory, or if you think Petr Yan should have gotten the decision, that's all fine. But, there was a little bit of controversy regardless. So, he made good on the opportunity, but it wasn't like a Conor McGregor starching Chad Mendes in the second round, right? Whereas that is undeniable. He then gets to sit out for 10 fucking months, which, bro, I don't know if you've been watching MMA for a long time or not, but Dana White does not like that shit. And he has made that very apparent on multiple occasions. He does not like when dudes sit out and wait. And oftentimes, they don't end up getting the title shot. Whereas Sean O'Malley gets a controversial split decision win over Petr Yan, doesn't have to fight for 10 months, and then gets a title shot. And, this is conjecture purely, but I would imagine that the UFC said, hey, just fucking hang tight. We're not going to give you another fight. Hang tight. You get the title shot. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Which I can't remember a single other guy that ever happened for. So, again, Aljo himself mentioned Sean O'Malley is a big name. The Dana White privilege has got nothing to do with Sean O'Malley being fucking white. It's got to do with the money that Dana White thinks, or that people think Dana White thinks comes along with Sean O'Malley. Look, Sean O'Malley's got a big following. Absolutely. There's no doubting that. I, for one, question whether or not that translates to pay-per-view buys, considering the age demographic that is Sean O'Malley's core giant fan base are not those that have credit cards. And I'm not trying to shit on you if you're a Sean O'Malley fan. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people under the age of 18 that really like Sean O'Malley. So when Dana White looks at Sean O'Malley, he doesn't see some beautiful white man that he wants to help out. He sees fucking Gumby and his horse. When you know what I mean? When Sean O'Malley and Tim Welch walk into a room, that's what Dana White sees. He sees green, dude. He doesn't care if you're white, black, yellow, or whatever the fuck. He sees green, bro. And there are people that actually say that Israel Adesanya and guys like this have Dana White privilege, but the reason it's not as apparent is because out of any of the guys I just mentioned, not a single one of them are a defending champion in the UFC. And I hate Israel Adesanya, who, by the way, is by far the one that uses race-baiting tactics the most, and is also a guy that Jesse on Fire cannot, for the life of him, stop glazing up. So, you know what I mean? Keep it consistent, my guy. Israel Adesanya is a long-time defending champion. Well, not now, but he was, right? Kamaru Usman, long-time defending champion. These guys are proven. They fought the hard fights already. And like I said, Dana White privilege only takes you so far. If Sean O'Malley goes out there and starches Aljamain Sterling, nobody's going to claim he's got Dana White privilege. Do you know what I mean? He's not proven yet. It's got nothing to do with him being fucking white. Now, the one guy that I wanted to add into the mix, who is also a white guy, but it's got nothing to do with him being white, is Brock Lesnar. Dude undeniably got preferential treatment from the UFC, dude. Undeniably. He failed multiple drug tests leading up to UFC 200. They did not say shit. They let him go in there and fucking fight Mark Hunt. Because UFC 200 had already taken a few big hits. Nate and Connor's rematch was supposed to be on there. John Jones popped for PEDs. They had to schedule Anderson Silva versus Daniel Cormier. They had to move that from the main event to the feature bout. They then had to elevate Miesha Tate versus Amanda Nunes to the main event, which was not a main event fight by any stretch of the imagination. Amanda Nunes wasn't even the champion, and she sure as fuck was not as well known as she was now. Not only that, but he went 1-1 in the UFC and then got a title shot against Randy Couture. But again, he made good on the opportunity. Like none of these conversations exist without these guys making good on the opportunities. But again, when Dana White looks at Brock Lesnar, he doesn't see like the fucking epitome of the master race. What he sees is the Hulk. Do you know what I mean? Dude's got some of the highest selling pay-per-views of all time. Almost every single pay-per-view. He's got the worst selling pay-per-view Brock Lesnar has was a non-title fight against Alistair Overeem after he had that fucking whatever it was with his intestines. And he got the shit beaten out of him. But it sold 750,000 pay-per-view buys. Aljamain Sterling would need 7 pay-per-view events to sell that many. Right? That's why certain guys don't get treated as well. So Jesse on Fire just casually saying that drove me crazy. And, Aljo's a guy that already a ton of people fucking hate. And then you go and you throw that out there. And I'm not telling him how to run his channel. He does what he does. And he's been successful at it. So fucking kudos to him. But like, bro, get real, dude. Get real. And I also question his ability to point out star power. Like I don't know, man. It's weird. It's just, some of the things he says are weird to me, and this was one of them. I don't for a second think that Dana White privilege has ever been used to say that white guy gets treated better because he's fucking white. You know what I mean? Let me know if I'm off here, but that's never what it's been to me. What it's been to me is these guys, because they have eyeballs, because they have big fan bases, they get preferential treatment, and they do, dude. Michael Chandler objectively does. They all of the guys I have named have examples of when the UFC has done them favors, okay? It is what it is. Now, another reason that he pointed out, or that he used in like his argument, was that Aljamain Sterling said, Sean O'Malley's got all this Dana White privilege, he's been given everything, all this shit, and I can't wait to take it out on him. Not, I want to take it from him. Aljamain Sterling can't take away the way that somebody treats Sean O'Malley. That's not how that works. He could take away star power, but for him to say, oh, I'm going to take away the way that Dana White treats him and make Dana White treat me that way just doesn't make sense. So he wouldn't use that wording anyways. He wouldn't use that vernacular. That just doesn't make sense. And another thing was he called Sean O'Malley a naked mole rat. Now, Jesse on Fire didn't bring this up. Well, I mean, he read this part, but he didn't comment on it. Somebody in the comment section said that this is like a term that racist black people use against white people. Now, I've heard like snow roach. I've heard, Israel Adesanya screaming cracker over and over again. I have never in my life heard the term naked mole rat used for a white person. In fact, the only thing that makes me think of is Kim Possible, okay, because I'm Canadian, and that's how old I am, roughly. Around that time that show was fucking relevant. But I went and Urban Dictionary'd it, and I couldn't find a single thing. Do it for yourself. Not a single mention about race. The one definition that I could find, and now Aljamain Sterling probably was just calling Sean O'Malley ugly because he looks like fucking, you know what I mean? He looks how he looks. Was a vagina with teeth. That's the only, and I thought, oh, maybe he's calling him a pussy. Like a walking, talking pussy. Maybe that's what he's calling him. But I don't know, dude. Anyways, I don't want to keep doing these react videos. So I'm very, very, very glad it's media day. And I apologize if these are getting a bit redundant. But people say a lot of dumb shit Okay, so I want to call it out. I call out race baiting when it's morbidly obese fucking what's his face, dude, MMA Joey, and I'm gonna call out race baiting when it's the albino Guido, Jesse on Fire. So like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you think that Jesse on Fire has become a mind reader, if he's gotten mind reading abilities because of all of the kratom and Adderall that he's on, or if he's actually accusing Aljamain Sterling of dog whistling, which is an extremely progressive tactic, or if you think Aljamain Sterling actually is dog whistling. Let me know what you guys think. Like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.